So a Republican congressman accidentally said the quiet part out loud. This is Richard McCormick. He's a Republican from Georgia. He's on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And they're going to talk here about DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and where the government can make cuts. And again, he's going to accidentally tell the truth. And this is what their plan is all along. Anything else is just a virtue signal. It's not going to happen. Here's where they are going to look to make cuts. Listen.
Hard decisions. We got to bring the Democrats in and talk about Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. There's hundreds of billions of dollars to be saved, and we know how to do it. We just have to have the stomach to actually take those challenges on. But we can't just talk about our discretionary budget. That's less than 25% of our budget. We have to have some real hard discussions.
Well, we talk about this all the time. It seems like we're constantly talking about where to cut and the fact that the fight over defense. Do you believe that the defense budget should be cut?
I'm not a big fan of that. I think we could do things a lot better. But when you talk about what's happening in Taiwan, what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening with Israel, what's happening in Ukraine, this is an unstable place, an unstable time. We have to be very careful.
And we have to have a real conversation. Is this a real conversation? The Pentagon failed 7 audits in a row. 7. Last I checked, they couldn't account for 61% of the money that they get. And remember, we are not talking about chump change here. We're talking about somewhere between $500 billion and $1 trillion is what we're talking about here. And what did he say? Bro, I'm not a big fan of cutting that, bro. I'm not a big fan of cutting that. Okay, what do you want to cut? He just told you. Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. In other words, take the most popular, most successful government programs, take a hatchet to them. Why? Because they help regular people, and this guy doesn't give a fuck about regular people. He gives a fuck about his donors and the military-industrial complex. That's who he cares about. Social Security, we had a senior poverty rate that was over 30%. Social Security kicks in, it drops to 10% or below. It is one of the most wildly successful government programs ever that we've done in this country. That's why it's viewed as a third rail to touch it. If you touch it, there's political consequences to it, right? So that's why Trump, he had the instincts on the campaign trail to say, not going to cut your Social Security, not going to cut your Medicare. He had the instincts to say that because he knows, I can't override that one. People love those programs. But all the other Republicans, yeah, cut it. What are you talking about? What's the problem? Absolutely. Let's do that. Let's privatize whatever we can privatize. Let's take a hatchet to it. By the way, those programs do not add to the deficit or the debt. They don't. They're a separate part of the budget. They're paid for. We're good to go. In the long term, if you want to make them viable, as far as the eye can see, all you have to do is raise the cap on the Social Security tax. That's all you have to do. So I believe the number is about maybe 130,000 or so right now, where for $130,000 a year or less, you pay whatever the rate is, but all you have to do is lift the cap and say, tax professional athletes and venture capitalists and multimillionaires and billionaires, tax them at that same rate. Because right now, it's only the first $130,000 that they make or so that they tax for Social Security. So just raise taxes on the rich just a little bit, and it's funded as far as the eye can see. But instead of doing that, what do they want to do? Cut it. Cut Social Security, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid. So in other words, healthcare for old people, put it on the chopping block. Healthcare for poor people, put it on the chopping block. Payment to make sure your grandma doesn't starve, put it on the chopping block. But do not touch the military spending. Guys, on top of 61% of the money being unaccounted for, go back and read the Afghanistan papers, the Afghanistan report, or read about Iraq. The amount of waste, fraud, and abuse, there's an argument that it is literally nothing but waste, fraud, and abuse when we did these nation-building projects. Nothing but waste, fraud, and abuse. You had the no-bid contracts. There's a great old documentary called Iraq for Sale, The War Profiteers. Go and watch that. Nothing will radicalize you quicker than watching that. Iraq for Sale, The War Profiteers by a guy named, I think he's Robert Greenwald, I think it is. Something Greenwald. It's not Glenn. It's Robert Greenwald, I think. I might be messing up that first name. But what they show you, what they demonstrate for you is the whole point of the whole thing was war profiteering. So in other words, you'd have like a six can of Coke, and they say, oh, that charge the taxpayers like $60 for that, right? Hire a company to do the electric in a military base and they hire the cheapest company, they charge the taxpayer a colossal amount of money, and then they fuck up the wiring and people end up getting electrocuted while taking a shower. Our own soldiers got electrocuted while taking a shower. This is what we're talking about. It's billions and billions and billions of dollars that went missing that was supposed to go to, a project to build this or build that in Iraq or Afghanistan. I mean, it is such a colossal scam. Think about it, guys. They take the things that you are least likely to question, and that's where they do the scamming, right? Oh, if you're against the Iraq war, you hate our troops. You're unpatriotic. Oh, if you're against the Afghanistan war, same thing. You're unpatriotic. How dare you? And then it's in the process of the Iraq war and the Afghanistan war, throw colossal amounts of money at it, no bid contracts, people profiteering left and right, shoddy work done on the ground, projects not finished, oligarchs running out the back door with all the money. Guys, it's on the record. You all know the story with Dick Cheney and Halliburton. He got an exit bonus of some preposterous amount of money. I don't know if it was tens of millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars. And then boom, the Iraq war happens. He gives Halliburton a no bid contract and they make out like bandits, bro. They make out like bandits. This is what people mean when they talk about the military-industrial complex and they talk about war profiteering. Again, Iraq for Sale, the War Profiteers. Go watch that. Or just go read the Afghanistan report about how, even our own soldiers, even our own military was like, what exactly are we doing here? Like, what exactly is the goal? And, there have been plenty of examples of our own soldiers blowing the whistle on our allies in Afghanistan. And, we allied ourselves with warlords nominally to posture against the Taliban. And, oh, would you look at that? Some of the warlords that we're working with, they have child sex slaves chained to their bed. And some well-meaning U.S. soldiers blew the whistle on that and said, hey, do you know this guy who we're funding and giving weapons to and who we're on the side of has child sex slaves chained to his bed? Oh, look at that. You're discharged from the military because you dared bring that up. Right? This is what we're talking about. The idea of serious people at the top making decisions that are in the best interest of our country and of the world, and we got to get rid of the bad, brutal dictators, and we got to bring democracy to the Middle East, all of it's bullshit. It's all a fucking cover story so that the military-industrial complex can profit, the oligarchs can get wealthier. Again, 61% of the money for the military budget is unaccounted for. Where'd it go? What's it been used for? Why do we give so much money to the military? I mean, these are all questions. Nobody has good answers to these questions. Nobody. It's not sufficient to just say we're the world police and we should be the world police and that's the end of the conversation. Stop asking questions. Well, how's that fucking worked out for us? How's that worked out for us? Not great. Not great to say the least. But according to this jackass, don't you dare question the money going to the Pentagon. Let's not cut there at all. Let's only cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So in other words, all the programs that go to help regular people, those are the ones we got to cut. These guys can do tremendous damage to this country within the next 4 years. And we cannot and should not and will not stand for it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.